Hey guys, thanks for having me. This is my second Social Fresh, and the first one I've gotten to come up and speak at. So thank you, Jason. One thing I've learned just by watching everybody else is that there's a lot of themes going on right now in 2014. So apologize if you've heard a little bit, but I think that just means that this stuff is really, really important, right? So I'm a social media manager. Any other social media managers in the house? Put your hands up. Don't be scared. We're all friends here. It's okay. All right, so I want to talk to you a little bit today about my role at the PGA Tour and how we've evolved that social media manager role, even if maybe HR isn't evolving as quickly. So do that, and then we're going to talk a little bit about a metric that I really like that's really allowed us to value our content and what people are doing with it differently. So I want to jump right in, and they gave me a new pointer, and it has a laser. That's pretty cool. So does anybody's parents still think that all you do all day is just play on the computer or watch movies, play on Facebook, right? We've all heard that, what do you do? So that's what my mom thinks I do, which is probably better than society just thinks I'm gonna hurt myself tweeting and walking across the street. But luckily I live in Jacksonville, not New York, so we don't walk anywhere, but same thing. And then, of course, this is, what I would like to do, or what I like to do, evangelize, bring something new and fresh to my company and to people like you who I get to sit up here and talk to. But, maybe I do a little bit of all of these things, right? But what I've learned, and I've been at the tour for 6 years, and I started from being my own person, my own team, to doubling that team a few years later, so there's two. And now, a couple years later after that, what are we actually doing? Well, what I actually do is I'm kind of the person behind the scenes. And I'm actually now in more of a director, producer, editor role, which is really cool. So I want to tell you a little bit about how I got there. So when I started the tour, like I said, I was social. And then there's two of us, and we were social. So we were that little bird in the middle, right? So I work for PGA Tour Digital. We have a great website, pgatour.com, and we have, 10 producers and a handful of writers and contributors, and they're really focused on website content. And then we have an entire building that is entertainment. They're our video production. They're producing the TV specials that you see. They're producing highlights and our live coverage, and their video, 100% video. And we've got mobile teams and all these other digital products. And everybody was kind of in their own silos until about last year. We decided that's ridiculous because content is content and it doesn't matter where it lives. All content, that's what it is. And it's all to be consumed. We all want more people to consume more of it. So we're going to knock down these silos, and everybody who does content is responsible for all content, which is great because now you've just taken my team of 2 and you've made them 12. Yes. And I get my weekends back because I'm not the only one that has to produce on social. But what does this mean? This means that now my job has evolved from actual content creator to content teacher. So we redefined our brand voice, right? We are the PGA Tour. Maybe not so important when you have one person or 2 people doing your marketing messaging and your brand voice on social media, but when you are now turning over the keys to new people, you really have to define this down. So we did that. I did a ton of training, a ton of decks, a ton of tool tips and best practices and things like that, and we took them to our content teams and said, this is how you do social. Maybe you are a website producer, so this is going to look familiar. Now you're a video producer, and let's think about how we can make that video that worked really well on our website and optimize it for YouTube, and then give me a 15-second cut down so I can put it on Instagram, right? So this is how we're all thinking about content holistically on the PGA Tour. And I love this quote, so I'm just going to keep it up there for a little while. It's actually straight out of our brand voice and how we want to talk and how we want to approach ourselves. So, and then we realized, okay, the question I get asked all the time is God, you have the greatest job. I bet you go to all the tournaments. If you know how many tournaments we played, you know that nobody wants to go to all the tournaments. All right, so what we decided is we do have people who are out every week. We have media officials, we have rules officials, we have people from entertainment, we have our own writers and our own staff. And yeah, me and my team, we go out 10 to 15 times a year. So that's great. Well, let's use these people who are already on site. Let's teach them how to produce content for us, and let's teach them how to get it back to us. So we create an email address and a photo stream on iCloud, and say you guys, when you're out there, step away, get out of the lens of this is my job, and start looking at things like you would if you were a golf fan, right? So step back and look what's really cool. And I can promise you, we walk by so many driving ranges where I'm on the golf course, and we're always, oh, I got to go find this player, or, oh, this person wants to, is taking a photo, and I can't let them do that. And then one day, somebody stepped back and was like, it's kind of cool. I mean, we've got 10 different kinds of golf balls up here. Any kind that a PGA Tour pro wants to hit is available right here on the driving range. It really is the world's most accommodating driving range. It's pretty cool. This post, we put it up in the middle of our 2012 playoffs. It was like the best non-competition post. It was like one of the best posts we posted all through the whole playoffs. And it had nothing to do with the FedEx Cup, Tiger Woods, or which golf course we were playing. But it was just a chance for us to kind of get fans closer and give them something that they wouldn't necessarily see. So that's great. Our media officials are taking this one step further, and they're creating competition now to see like who gets the most likes and comments on their Instagram pages, or on the photos that they're sending us to put on Instagram and other places. So not too bad, because now I get to take my fans to the first tee of East Lake Golf Club and the Tour and Championship. So you're actually there with Tiger Woods as he's ready to tee off and play for $10 million. It's pretty cool, right? I like this one too. Who gets to really go to the top of the Empire State Building with PGA champion Jason Duffner and his big shiny trophy, right? But we can now, because now the people who are actually going and doing those things are in the habit of saying, like, God, this is really cool, and I have a way to share this. And then we let them share it on their own personal Instagram accounts and their own personal social accounts that are branded. And that's great too, because some of our guys take great photos, and some of our guys find great stats, and it kind of gives us a chance to let everybody be a content creator, even if their job is not anything to do necessarily with content. So that's fantastic. So my job is now not content creator. My job is editor. My job is producer. My job is to get all of these things and then make our fans closer to the game through all of the things that we're doing, through all the content that we're getting. That's pretty awesome. So a little bit about how our role has evolved. This allows me to tell our team, hey, this is a different chance to tell the story, right? So every social channel has its own unique characteristic. If you got a great photo, obviously it goes to Instagram. If you've got a great stat, maybe it goes to Twitter, because you don't necessarily need a link there. Twitter allows us to produce really great competition coverage. So right now, if you follow @PGA Tour, if you just go check out twitter.com/PGA Tour, you're going to see like what's happening at the Open right now. And that's great. We're able to use all these different social characteristics of the channels and vary the stories that we're telling and vary the narrative. And what I love about that is that we really stress, like, don't post the same thing at the same time to the same channel. Change the photo you're using, or think about the time of the day that you're posting something, and give a person a reason to follow us on Twitter and on Facebook and on Instagram and go to our Pinterest page and watch our YouTube videos. Because if they can see everything on just one channel, then they're only going to be a fan on Facebook. They're only going to follow us on Twitter. And instead, we're trying to vary the narrative so you get a little bit more every place you go, which I think is great. And the other thing, hashtag details. I just drill this into our team, especially when you're turning things over. I think this comes from the control of being like, I'm the only person that does social. When I started, and it was like, everything's got to be perfect, because if it's not, somebody's going to get on me for it, right? Or I'll know our stuff's not as good as it could be. So hashtag details is something that I continue to tell our team. You're only as good as your last post, right? So if your spelling's incorrect, if your grammar sucks, if you tag the wrong person in your post, or even worse, you posted the wrong link in your post. I mean, think about how many social media debacles we're actually preventing by paying attention to the hashtag details, right? If you're US Airways, you don't want to be the person who caused the social media debacle. You want to be the person who prevented it, even if no one else knows it but yourself. Hopefully no one else knows it but yourself, right? So that's a little bit about what we did at the tour, how our content strategy has evolved, and how my role. And so, now I'm this editor, I'm this producer, but now I'm also the analyst even more, right? So because I have to tell our team what content's working, what can we do more of. I have to be specific in my feedback about what things I need and what angles I need to get, and see if you can get this interview or this kind of photo. And how do I know what I need? Well, it all goes back to our analytics. So, when we were looking at how to do this, we were looking for a way to measure a channel that was similar in how we're producing content, but less similar in followers, right? So we had Facebook pages with 500,000 followers. We had Instagram accounts with 30,000 followers. How do we rate the content and how it's performing? Well, we found this a metric called engagements per post, and I will be the first to tell you I did not create this. I just found it, and now I advocate for it. Total up all those number of engagements that you're getting in your content, and just divide it by how many times you're actually publishing. No more do you have to look and go find this arbitrary reach number or worry about, hey, 4% of my fans are seeing this content versus 6% of my fans. No, now you can actually baseline your content and how well it's performing by how many people are engaging with, or how many actions people are taking, and how many times you're publishing. That's a lot simpler and a lot more consistent for anyone to do. And it doesn't matter if you're publishing 5 times a week. It doesn't matter if you're publishing 500 times a week. These are all things that we can measure, right? So there's 4 key engagements. And up there I have likes and comments and shares and clicks. But I want to talk about them in a little bit broader terms. I'll start with what I call conversation. So conversation is exactly that. It's the comments that you're driving. It's the Twitter replies and that kind of thing. So how do you drive conversation? Well, you tell good stories, and you tap into good storylines. And this is going to be a great way to determine how your content's performing, and an easy way to bump that engagements per post number. Because if you hit on a storyline that is solid, and all of a sudden you've got people engaging with you, and you're engaging in the comments, that's great. Do more of that. People obviously want to talk about it, right? So there's conversation, right? And then there's what people do with your content. And this is the true power of social media, isn't it? Right? So those repins, those retweets, those Facebook shares, when people are taking your content and saying, God, this is so good, I want to send it to my friends, that's your amplification. And under the umbrella amplification, you can equate all of these things, right? So true power of social. Also, for a lot of us, it's going to be the top opportunity to increase that overall engagements per post number, right? Because it's probably something that we're not really looking. We're trying to drive clicks, or we're trying to drive likes, but we're not necessarily trying to drive amplification all the time. But it's a great way to drive your overall reach and get new fans, because the people who are sharing your content are directly endorsing it, and that's really cool. It's also going to tell you what kind of content that they like. Do more of the content that they like. You're going to get more amplification. You're going to get more conversation, right? And then don't discount applause. The likes, the plus ones, Twitter favorites, Instagram hearts. It's such an easy social action to take. I think a lot of us discount it, right? So it's so simple. Oh, it's just a like. Oh, that doesn't mean anything. Well, every social action that anyone takes on your content creates mini amplification, because it creates a story in your newsfeed and in somebody else's newsfeed. So they're technically endorsing your content without really meaning to, almost. So you can still drive amplification through applause, and I think that's really cool. It's also the best real-time barometer I've found to determine how our content is actually doing. So, if we post something and it instantly gets 100 likes, I'm like, hey, that's kind of cool. I'm going to keep checking on that. And maybe I want to, post more photos because I'm seeing they get more applause. Maybe I want to post more quick quotes because they're getting more applause. Real barometer, real-time tracking of how your content's doing, and that's great. And the last one is what we call economic value. And for us at the PGA Tour, right, so I work for PGAtour.com. We're a media brand. Everything rolls back into clicks. If I can drive clicks to our website and video views, I'm driving ad views and pre-rolls, and that, at the bottom line, that's how we get paid. It doesn't matter how many fans and followers I have. If I'm not driving traffic back to the website, nobody really cares in the business. And this, by assigning an economic value and rolling it into my engagements per post, it changes the conversations I have with my bosses. It changes the value that we're putting on social all the way through the organization. So again, for me, it's clicks. For you, it might be website conversions. It might be downloads of your ebook. It might be signups for your newsletter, or even retail transactions. Whatever it is, roll that action that somebody's taking on your social content that results in that the thing that you're measuring against your bottom line, and roll that into your engagements per post metric, because that's how you're going to change the conversation. One thing I've learned about this engagements per post metric, as I've dived into it, is actually like your publishing strategy is also going to determine how well you're doing in engagements per post. For Twitter, especially on competition days like today and through the weekend, very high volume for us, right? We're pumping content. So 500 people at a time can't engage with every tweet that we're posting. We're posting too much stuff. I'm not changing my publishing strategy just to get more engagements per post. I'm just going to accept that overall, I'm probably going to have less engagements per post on Twitter because we're pumping more content when we're doing it more frequently. Where on Instagram, we're publishing less content, but people on Instagram love to engage. And honestly, if I took out that clicks metric, that economic value, Instagram would be like our highest, most engaged platform, which I think is amazing because we have less fans there than we do on any of the other social platforms I have up here, right? But people love to engage. But they don't have clicks. So when I weight that in, Facebook rises to the top, actually, because Facebook's a great referral source for us. So take into consideration what your publishing strategy is, and take into consideration, how that affects your engagements per post, because it will matter. But you can also take engagements per post and baseline it across these channels. So I know, okay, if my average is, 105 engagements per post on Twitter, and this week is the Open Championship, and we're actually hitting like 150, that's great. Even if our overall number didn't change that much, I know that we did good on Twitter compared to a normal week. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so this is the part where you say, okay, maybe this makes sense. Maybe she's not just, spending too much time in the sun on the golf course, and I want to take this back on Monday and actually do this. Here's how I do it, right? And I use Sprinkler. They're a great social metrics platform and social publishing platform, but I think you could do this no matter if you're pulling all the insights straight from Facebook insights and Twitter ads. So I've just got, here's all my accounts, here's how many times I've published. If this is the first time you can do this and you're doing it all by hand, only do like a week. That's a pretty good sample size. How many times that you've done this in a week, or how many times you published in a week. And then your total engagements, same. You can get this from Facebook, you can get this from Twitter, you can get this from like Statagram for Instagram, and total up all your engagements. And then I do all my clicks, right? So if you use Bitly, you're tracking how many clicks you're producing. If you use Omniture, great, or another URL shortener, you can usually get that click count. And so I've got that in there. And then you can see I've got, instead of likes and comments and shares, I've got applause and conversation and amplification, which allows me to kind of create sames for all those categories, right? So this is the first scorecard. This is how I'm measuring it. And then you just take that total engagements plus clicks and divide it by your volume of messages, and hopefully we all learned that math in like 6th grade. And then this is the scorecard that I can actually produce for our executives in my reporting, my key engagement rates, and then I look at how we're performing week to week. So I can say, okay, overall in this particular time period, we generated about 1,100 engagements per post. Sounds pretty good. I think our 2014 average is somewhere around like 800. So good week for us. But let's look, here, laser pointer, right? Okay, let's look at our economic value. Wow, 80% of our engagements are actually like hitting our bottom line. Fantastic. I'm gonna go tell that story to my bosses like as soon as I get home. So that's great. We're doing really well in applause. No big thing, that's the easiest social action. We talked about that, so that's great. But where are my opportunities? Here, actually I'll do it over here for you guys. What are my opportunities? That conversation. For some reason, we're just not driving a ton of conversation right now. Let's go back and tell our team and take this back and say, guys, we're doing a lot of things really well. We're above average in overall engagements per post, but I think there's a real opportunity here to drive some conversation. So I really want dedicated posts this week or today, every day, about, and think about how we can drive some conversation from our fans and spend a little bit more time engaging with them directly on the platform, whether it's who do you think is going to win or who do you think is going to shoot a lower score, whatnot. So that's how I can take this metric back and then actually put action behind it, take it back to the team, and we can continue to use these metrics to make it smarter.